Welcome to a fresh episode of the latest tech news. We have Apple, Google, and PUBG in the news today, and our first look at the OnePlus 8 Pro real live image, and it is looking really good. First off, news on PUBG Mobile. Apparently season 13 is already in the works, and it's going to be called Toy Playground. This is a leak suggesting that, as the name suggests, a toy theme will be added to Season 13 in PUBG. This seems a little bit strange to have a toy theme in PUBG. Maybe it's a nod a little bit towards Fortnite, but apparently there'll be some Lego themed guns, or at least some colourful guns, and some character skins that actually look a lot like Power Rangers, if you remember those. There is apparently a new character coming as well called Andy, whose tagline is, "I can make this gun talk." This is all from a leak on YouTube about some video of Season 13. Nothing confirmed yet by PUBG about the season. Of course, they wouldn't be. I don't know if this is a leak, if this is real, or if it's just a big troll. I guess we'll wait a couple of months and find out. Apple and Google, two complete rivals in the smartphone industry, are apparently working together right now because of the current situation. And here's the statement. So it reads, in the coming months, Apple and Google will work to enable a broader Bluetooth-based contact tracing platform by building this functionality into the underlying platforms, that is iOS and Android. Both companies will release APIs that enable interoperability between Android and iOS devices using apps from public health authorities. These apps will be available for users to download via their respective app stores. So basically, we know right now that contact tracing is a really important thing to do, and both iOS and Android, if you opt into these services and download the APIs or the apps, will allow you to trace everyone that you've been in contact with, or at least near, by communicating from your phone with their phones. The companies say that all of this data will be encrypted and will use secure keys so that it can't be hacked, which is obviously a big problem, giving up all of your location data like this. This will be coming apparently by the start of May. You can download the apps, opt in, and then you can keep track of anyone. If someone else does catch something, then you will be alerted because you would have been in contact with them, and your phone will know this thanks to the location services that both iOS and Android are going to be putting forth. Apple TV is giving free access to a ton of paid shows, and this follows in the footsteps of loads of other companies, including YouTube and most of the major streaming services worldwide, giving free access to paid services right now. This is starting from the 11th of April and will be carried out for a short period. As yet, we don't know when it will end, but if you have Apple TV in any way, so if you have an iOS device, if you have an Apple TV box or Amazon Fire Stick or Roku, any way that you can access Apple TV Plus, you can get virtually all of the paid services for free, except the morning show, their most popular show, that is still paid. They're not giving that away for free. But anyway, you can go to apple.co/free for everyone and see if you can get it for free and what shows you can get. Okay, the OnePlus 8 Pro, here it is. We get our first look at the OnePlus 8 Pro, a real device, a real OnePlus 8 Pro. Here it is in its full glory, and I must say it is looking really, really good. The thing I noticed first is the complete lack of bezels on the left and right sides. We know that OnePlus went for this curved display, but it looks really slim on the left and right. Other than that, the bottom bezel is actually really slim as well, and it has a curved design. And it reminds me a little bit of the S20 series in terms of the way that the phone and the screen and the bezel curves. We also see the specs if we needed any clarification, but this confirms it without any shadow of a doubt. The Snapdragon 865, 12 gigabytes of RAM with 256 gigabytes of ROM, otherwise known as just storage on the device. 48 plus 48 plus 8 plus 5, so the main and the ultra wide are getting those 48 cameras. 48 plus 48 plus 8 plus 5. We know that the main and the ultra wide are getting two 48 megapixel image sensors. They're not the same, but they have the same amount of pixels. The telephoto at 3 times, and then the 5 megapixel, which will be a depth sensor, maybe a black and white sensor. They use it for some supporting imagery. It's running Hydrogen OS, which you probably won't be familiar with as you don't live in China. Hydrogen OS is the Chinese version of Oxygen OS, which is their operating system. Reaction is really good, actually. I really like the design. The bezels are tiny. It just looks like an all-screen device. We obviously can't see the cutout in the top left because it's hidden by the black notification bar or the black top bar there. Anyway, these phones will have a 20:9 taller aspect ratio, and the reason why phones are doing this these days is because of that notch. so they can really just hide the notch in the top notification bar or hide it with some black borders at the top. It'll have a 6.78-inch display, which actually sits right in between the Galaxy S20 top two phones. So the S20 Ultra has a 6.9-inch and the S20 Plus, I think, 6.7-inch. So this is sitting right in between those. And actually this phone, if you look at the specs and the way it's set up, I think its rival is more the Galaxy S20 Plus rather than the S20 Ultra, just looking at the cameras and just the size of it. But according to leaks anyway, it should be coming a little bit cheaper than the S20 Plus, but physically a little bit bigger. So it might tempt a lot of people, depending on the price, to actually go for a OnePlus device other than that S20 Plus. We also got this official promo image from OnePlus on the Bullets Wireless Z. We know all about these already, 2 times better battery life basically than before, but we got this official promo image today. Still no word on TWS earphones, completely wireless earphones. They were rumored, but there's been no leaks on these, so I guess we have to assume that they aren't coming unless this one has been really kept under wraps and they're going to surprise us at the launch event. OnePlus also posted this about their MEMC chip, which is a special chip that they have inside their phone to essentially turn low frame rate media into high frame rate media. So a lot of videos are shot in 24 frames a second or 30 frames a second, possibly up to 60 frames a second, but they have a 120 hertz screen. So the MEMC chip inside actually scans the previous clip and the clip after and then makes up a new clip from those to go in between. So apparently it can create a feeling of more frames than there actually was there and will take advantage of that 120 hertz screen. We also did get this list of apps that will go with this MEMC chip. YouTube is part of that. Guess we'll just see how good it is at doing this when the phone actually comes. Pete Lau also shared these pictures of Fanatic Mode. If you're a OnePlus fan, you'll know about Fanatic Mode. It's basically their game center, so you can go into Fanatic Mode and play games that way, and it will handle background apps in a different way and give you the best performance in gaming. The CEO also saying that none of the OnePlus series are heavier than 200 grams, and actually the OnePlus 8 coming in at 180 grams. The OnePlus 8 also being 8.8 millimeters in thickness, which compared to the S20 Ultra is just a bit thinner. The S20 Ultra is 8.8 millimeters. So I wouldn't say it's the thinnest phone in the world. The OnePlus 8 Pro is probably a bit thicker as well, but it is there or thereabouts, so it's not going to be big, thick or heavy, even considering this compact build. iOS activation data shows that iOS devices are getting popular and Apple is absolutely killing it when it comes to the smartphone game right now. So this data shows Q1, that's the first 3 months of the year for 2020. Android still has the biggest reach and the most users, but of course there are just tons of different manufacturers and different phones. But iOS held 44% of the industry in Q1 2020 as opposed to 56% for Android as a whole. iOS though is seeing an increase in numbers. It actually gained 8% over the years since 2018. Then they had 32% and now they have 44%. So Apple and iOS in general is growing. This data also shows that loyalty is really high, up to 90%. So only 10% of people actually switch between Android and iOS, with the vast majority, 90%, choosing one and just sticking with it. So pretty much you are either an Android or an iOS person. Once you make your choice, that's it. You're not going to change pretty much. And this also is pretty bad news for Huawei, considering they can't use the Android operating system anymore. It means that I guess most people probably aren't going to switch to their new system, Huawei mobile services, I guess you can call it. This bodes very well for Apple though, considering they are growing, and we got all these rumors of the iPhone 12 Pro this week with possibly a smaller bezel at the top, a smaller notch, and also that quad camera, at least with the addition of the LiDAR sensor at the back, giving a quad camera type of look. We also got widget rumors this week, but apparently this is more of a concept, something that Apple are looking to maybe implement in the future, but probably isn't coming to iOS 14, and that means isn't coming to the iPhone 12 series, at least when it launches in the autumn.